Mystery damage to your vehicle while you're parked or in a parking lot, maybe a hit and run accident with or without injuries. What do you do next? We're going to break it down for you on this week's Monday Morning Lawyer. Good morning out there. This is your accident and injury guy right here in my Elkton, Maryland office. We're going to talk about these accidents that are either a mystery or maybe just the insurance element of it is a mystery. So this actually comes in, and thank you from one of our watchers. This was a question that was sent in a couple weeks ago. We had a few weeks lined up of what we were going to talk about. The question came in asking, what happens if somebody you don't know damages your vehicle? And this comes up in a situation where we get calls from time to time where a vehicle's parked either on a roadway or in a parking lot, and then another vehicle hits it. In parking lots, sometimes you see it with shopping carts that'll hit it or something along those lines. Damage is done, and the person causing the damage, especially if it's another vehicle, doesn't leave a note, doesn't leave any insurance information. When we're in the roadways, when we're driving, and these accidents happen, what we're supposed to do is pull over, call emergency services, have them do a report, exchange insurance information, and sometimes from time to time, the person and the other driver who caused this accident decides, hey, I'm not sticking around for this, and zoom, off they go. I would say that we deal with quite a few of these, more than you'd like to think, every single year. So the question comes from, what happens when this happens? How is this handled? And more importantly, what's going to happen to your insurance rates with the claim that you're likely to make as a result of this? So first and foremost, and why that last question is there, is that for the most part, your only recourse is to file a claim with your own insurance company under what's called the underinsured or uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage. So if you don't know, if there's a hit and run, a situation like that, even in the parking lot situation, you want the police, and you can call the non-emergency number, call the police, have them come out. They're going to do a report, and they're going to say that, if you're in the vehicle, if it happened on the roadway, then they're going to provide a narrative of everything that happened. If not, if this is a parking lot type of situation, you come back, you find that your vehicle's been dinged or completely wrecked, because we've seen stuff like that, and there's no indication of who it is. The other thing the police are going to be able to help do, not just that report, but they're going to be able to kind of survey the area and possibly even already have knowledge, especially if it's a parking lot, of where there might be security cameras. Just because you don't immediately know the information from who caused the accident or their insurance, it's very, very rare. And especially because the camera technology generally is not that great. But sometimes, and I would say if we handle 30 hit and run accidents a year, we might be able to get insurance information or license plate to run the tag and get insurance information once every 2 to 3 years. Like it's a small percentage. So if you're looking to kind of get that information, don't hold your breath. Is it possible? Will the police, will whoever's investigating explore that option? Absolutely. But it's as much as we have in the sense of Ring cameras and other security cameras, the probability of being able to get that still relatively low as of right now. So whether or not there are injuries, you're in the vehicle, or if we're just talking about property damage to the vehicle, the claim is going to effectively be handled the same way, assuming there's no access to the insurance information for the other driver. It's going to be set up as what's called an uninsured motorist claim. It's a no-fault claim, so it should have very little, if any, effect on your insurance rates. They're not going to drop you or anything like that. if you make 5 or 6 of these over a short period of time, there's gonna be some scrutiny. But if it's just like a one-off thing, you're not gonna have any issues. Um, there is going to be a deductible for the property damage on that part of the claim and the vehicle. That deductible will automatically, by law in Maryland, be $250. Even if your normal collision deductible is $1,000, the uninsured motorist deductible is going to be $250. That's statutory. If it's a vehicle accident on the roadway where you're injured and you're in there, same thing. So where the accident happens, how the accident happens is not what determines what this deductible it is. It's just when there's a motor vehicle collision and we don't have the insurance information or the other driver doesn't have insurance, because sometimes this process manifests, and this is more often than the hit and run scenario. The other driver has insurance information, but maybe they didn't pay their bill. Maybe they canceled their insurance. Whatever the case may be, that policy may not be active on the date of that loss, and that will also constitute an uninsured motorist claim. Same deductible applies for the property damage because, again, why they're uninsured isn't relevant. It's just the fact that they're uninsured. Your deductible automatically becomes $250. Now, your insurance company has every right, and many, many times they do pursue the other driver. They will file a lawsuit. They will often get a judgment. If they're able to collect this, and this is another one of those don't hold your breath scenarios, but if they're able to actually get that money back from the at-fault driver on the uninsured motorist claim, they will refund you that deductible. I don't know that in thousands and thousands and thousands of cases that I've handled, that I've heard of a scenario in which they actually got all of the money back and refunded a deductible on an uninsured motorist claim. If somebody's filing a collision claim because they want to speed up the property damage process, that's different. That because they're usually getting that money back from another insurance company, not from an individual themselves. But those happen all the time. But when it comes to the uninsured motorist situation, that's very rare. I'm sure it has happened and it will happen, but not with any great frequency. Less, I would say, than the ability to track down the insurance information or a license plate from some random surveillance camera. So what happens with the injury portion of the claim? This is the part of the claim that my office would handle. So if you're dealing with one of these situations, look right here, 885-6200, give us a call, or go to the website, bowerslawmd.com, which is right here, and we can certainly help you out with this process. If you're injured, your insurance and the other person has no insurance, or it's a hit and run, or one of these other scenarios that we've discussed, your insurance company, up to the limit of your coverage, which we've talked about in many, many episodes, and there's a ton of content and information on bowerslawmd.com about insurance limits and insurance coverage. So whatever your under or uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage is, whatever that limit is, that becomes the limit for your insurance company's obligation to pay out on this injury claim. This is another scenario, and again, you don't have to worry about the recourse of this. It's a no-fault situation. They're going to go, most likely, most of these insurance companies, if an uninsured driver causes an accident and then your insurance company pays out on the claim, they are going to act on their right to sue the other driver. Whether or not they collect that money, that's to be determined. They can garnish wages. They can, attach property if there is any. But that you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to sweat that. All of that is between your insurance company after they've already paid your claims. You don't have to worry about them figuring out, can we get this money back before they pay the claim? They're an insurance company. So they're going to try to every way they possibly can to shortchange you on these claims, which is why it's so important to have an attorney. We effectively hold their feet to the fire, make sure they pay what these claims are worth, or we file a lawsuit and get it into the courts. This is a scenario. These injury claims here are a little bit different than our normal injury claims when it comes to how the case goes to trial. We've talked in previous episodes about how when we're in court, it's Joe Smith versus John Doe. And the jury sees Joe Smith, who caused this accident, at the defense counsel table. And part of it is hoping that they'll feel sorry for Joe Smith. The jury will feel sorry for Joe Smith and not want to give a big verdict. As we've mentioned before, insurance companies pay these verdicts. Even though Joe Smith might be sitting there at counsel table as the defendant, it's still an insurance company that's paying for this whole thing. But we're not allowed in those types of cases in the courtroom to tell members of the jury that it's actually an insurance company paying this claim. But when it's an uninsured motorist case, or if it's an underinsured motorist situation, the defendant oftentimes is the insurance company that didn't pay the claim adequately, or in an underinsured motorist case, the insurance company is one of the defendants in the case. So in this situation, the jury knows who's paying the verdict. It doesn't guarantee that we get more money, but it takes that psychological element that a juror might be thinking, or a group of jurors might be thinking, that, hey, Joe Smith caused this accident, but he doesn't seem like he's that bad of a guy. I know that John Doe got hurt. Let's make sure that John Doe gets compensated, but I don't want to burn Joe Smith. This process could happen in people's heads, and oftentimes it does. And again, if there's not an insurance company as a defendant, we're not allowed to tell, even in the scenario where, let's say it's Joe Smith and John Doe's insurance company, and those two are both defendants in the case, the jury's not necessarily going to know that any portion of the verdict associated with John Doe isn't going to be paid by John Doe. They're still not outright told that, hey, John Doe's got insurance too, and that insurance company's cutting a check. So it's, we look for those opportunities when an insurance company can be involved in these cases as the defendant, because it helps. It's not a guarantee that it helps, but ultimately the case itself, the valuation of the case, the way we present it to the jury is mostly the same, if not right the same, as how we would if it were just Joe Smith, John Doe. But they can go sue, depending on how the scenario is set up. Sometimes it happens automatically through the trial process, where they have rights to get their money back from the person who caused the accident. They never get that money back, I would say 2% of the time, maybe. But again, nothing that my clients have to worry about. We get the check when we resolve the case, and then the other insurance company, their insurance company, does what they need to do on the back end. So it's an interesting scenario, a couple of different ways that it comes up. But if you are in a situation where you're injured, because we're not really outfit and it's not particularly worth it for you, you can ask us questions about it, but we're probably not going to full scale represent you for one of the property only cases, because then we've got to take a percentage of that and you end up losing money. We can guide you. These videos can be helpful. The other articles on my website can be helpful. If it's associated with an injury claim, us being involved certainly primes the pump for the property damage claim to be handled properly and to go smoothly. It's not guaranteed. Sometimes we end up getting a little more involved than others, but usually they go pretty well there. And that. So that's all we got for you this week. Again, if you have other questions, other topics, thanks for bringing this topic out. And it's something that I think is super important. And I get these questions very, very regularly. But drop us a line, info@bowerslawmd.com. make sure that you mention that, hey, this is a topic that I'd like to see covered on the podcast. Because if you just contact us through that email address looking for representation, we're not necessarily going to talk about your situation publicly. And if you want it to be on the podcast and we represent you, we're certainly not naming names and specifics about your situation here on the podcast. We will frame these just like we have this time as a very generic sort of scenario that applies to more people so that we can continue to provide this type of information each and every week. We may or may not do an episode next week. It is MLK Day. The courts are closed and there's no mail and all of that kind of stuff. So it's possible that you see me. It's possible that you don't. If not, we'll be back the week right after that with another episode of the Monday Morning Lawyer. Have a great week. And if you are a fan of one of the regional NFL teams, congratulations. It's Victory Monday, whether you're a Ravens fan, whether you're an Eagles fan, and even if you're a fan of that team all the way down in Washington, that's really also in Maryland. Big wins for all three teams yesterday in the wild card division. So congratulations to them. On to next week to see what they do there. Again, be well, be safe out there, drive safe, and we will see you on the next episode.